Hi, welcome to Mr. Otter Studio. Today I'm going to be showing you how to draw letters in 1-point perspective. I know I said I was going to draw a landscape, but that's what we'll do tomorrow because I just feel like letters would be better after using blocks and all of these geometric shapes. And so we're going to be drawing 1-point perspective. Letters, you can draw whatever word you want. And I'm going to just be drawing Mr. Otter because why not? He is like my mascot and he's awesome. Who doesn't like otters? Maybe some of you don't. That's sad. You should like them. All right, what we're gonna do is we're going to be drawing with 1-point perspective, and instead of putting the point right in the middle of the paper, I'm gonna move it to the side a little bit this time. But I do want it to be at the top of the paper. I'm just gonna put it right here because I want my words to be down here and kind of go at an angle. So think about your word, how big you want it to be. Here's a little tip. If you're drawing a word that has like 8 letters, what you want to do is just kind of draw the space you want your letters in and then divide it into 8. So divide it in half and then divide this into 4 with 3 lines and then this into 4 with 3 lines. And then you know how big to make your letters. You can also make them smaller, make them taller, shorter, whatever. And I'll just show you, like, you can just start by drawing normal letters and then just block them out or bubble them out. You just need them to be a little bit thicker. I'm gonna be using just not really block letters, but just thicker letters. I don't know what you would call mine. So it's a little bit easier if you have a vanishing point to bring those lines back. Anyway, that's just the basics of writing letters. I'm not great with lettering, so I will try hard on this tutorial to be better. All right, now just write your word on the bottom. I'm going to be doing Mr. Otter, so I'm just gonna lightly kind of draw where the bottom of my letters are going to be. Because I actually kind of want to do like maybe some shadows in front of the letters. Would that be cool? I don't know. The nice thing with perspective, and I haven't even gone over this, is drawing perspective with shadows. So I think we need to maybe before we do landscapes, maybe the next one I'll do blocks with shadows in 1-point perspective. 2-point perspective is way easier. Let's just do it with 2-point. All right, figure out the word you want to put on there and write it in the bottom. Again, I'm writing Mr. Otter, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters and then 1 space, so 8. So I'm just going to kind of roughly figure out where I want my word to be, and then I'm going to divide it up, just like I showed you before. Okay, and then these are kind of tall, so I'm just gonna make them a little bit shorter. And then I'm just gonna write Mr. Otter. And you'll see, my lettering is terrible, but that's okay, I guess. All right, now block your letters in. You can use a ruler if you want them to be really, really blocky. You could write your name. If you're having a hard time coming up with something to write, you could write your name, your friend's name, your dog's name, your bird's name, your cat's name. You lucky people with pets. All right, now you've drawn your letters for your word, and now we're going to bring the lines back to our vanishing point. I'm gonna use my big eraser. So it's going to be the same way that we did our cube. So we're just going to be looking for the corners. And I'm going to show you, once I get to like this R, since it's rounded, some of you are probably like, what do I do there? There's no point. So I'll show you. First, let's do this M because there is some really nice points. And again, I know I'm not drawing this bottom point because this is a solid letter and that line goes through it. So if it goes through it, like it goes through it here at this point here, it would go through the M, so I know I don't need to draw that line. But this one doesn't go through it. This one doesn't go through it. And then this one goes through the R, but I'm still gonna draw all the way maybe skip over the R and draw all the way out. And then we can see this line. So you're kind of just hinging off of that vanishing point. And this M, we can't really see that line. All right, let's draw the top of the R. We can definitely see this point here. We know we've got a line right here. But then we get to this curved shape, and what do? You move your ruler till you hit the edge of it. Boom, right there. That's the edge. So I couldn't draw a line right here because it's not the edge, right? But once that ruler hits the edge, I know that that's now where I need to draw my line back. So look, and just ignore this line because it's part of my other letter. Okay, and the same thing with this bottom part. Do we bring a line off of that? Not really, because it's not the edge, but that point down there is the edge. And we can definitely see part of the inside of this bottom part of the R. And what about this? Can we see that line? Let's see. We can. All right, so we have the M, the R, and now let's do the otter. So the circle is going to be the same way we did the R. So you're going to bring your ruler until you hit the edge. So this is the edge right here. Bring your ruler over here until you hit the edge. Boom, right there. This edge. And the T is really easy, especially if you did that like shattered block thing with all of those geometric shapes. This T is really easy. And what about this part? We can actually see part of the bottom of the T here, but we can't see this part because it goes through it. Let me just erase that line. All right, now let's draw this T over here. This top line is way similar to the one next to it, but I'm gonna draw it in anyway. And can we see this bottom part of this T? Yes, we can. So we would know we don't see this one because the line goes through it, but this line actually doesn't go through it, so we know that we need it. All right, now let's draw the bottom part of this E, top. So all of your letters, you're just doing the same thing that I'm doing. Just drawing lines from all of those edges, those corners, or edges if they're rounded, back to the vanishing point. So it'll be cool to see how different this R looks from the R that we drew before because we can see the side of it so much. So we're gonna go till the edge. There we go. Bring it back. So we can see part of the top of this. See how I can hit the edge here. So we can see part of that. And we actually kind of can see just inside of this, but it wouldn't make sense. Okay, and we can't see that line because it would go through it. Now, we've got all the lines drawn back, and now how do we make these look like letters that end at some point? You have to figure out how wide you want them to be. It looks kind of cool actually to have them go all the way back, but I'm gonna end them maybe right here. So any of these straight letters, I know that they're pretty easy to make, but what about these curves and what about like the top of this M? So let's work with the M first. So we're just gonna be pivoting off of that vanishing point, all right, for all of this. Hopefully you're still with me. This is a longer one and I don't know what word you're writing, but hopefully just watching me is helping you figure out how to do it. Okay. Now what we're going to do, this is where parallel lines are so important in one-point perspective. So we can see the top of this M right here. I'm just kind of thickening up those lines so you can see it. Maybe I could zoom in just a little bit. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna zoom in a lot because we don't really need that vanishing point anymore. But you do need to be able to see how I'm ending these letters. So now this goes down, but how do I know like what angle to make it at? Well, you want it to be parallel to this line right here. So at the same angle. And if you're struggling to make it the same, you can actually measure it. Keep it the same distance here as you're doing it here. And then it will keep it parallel. And then this line just goes straight up and down because this line is going straight up and down. And there you have the M So hopefully that makes sense. We can see the M now. What about the R? So we're going to start at this top corner, and basically to keep it parallel, we're just trying to draw this exact same shape. In. And since if you're having a hard time with the bottom part of the R, because this was where it gets confusing, well now like there's this other shape. Where do I draw it? You want it to stay the same distance that this is. So you can use your ruler to kind of keep it the same distance, or you can eyeball it. It's like 2.5 centimeters. So then I know 2.5 centimeters, it's going to end right here. Okay, so does that make sense? R is kind of cool how it rolls out like that. This one's way different. I'm just going to erase some of the construction lines so you can see my letters a little bit better. And then with the O, we do the same thing. I basically want the top of this O to touch that line. And then I'm just going to erase these construction lines so you can see it a little bit better. And then the T does overlap it. T is way easy. It's just, there we go. That's about it. And then if you wanted to know if you needed to end this line, you could just figure out, is this distance about the same as that distance? If it is, then you don't, but if it's not, then you could draw in another vertical line to end it. I'm just gonna keep it, I think it's close enough that I would just keep the bottom part in. And then for the E, we're just drawing a vertical line up and down, keeping this top section, and then this bottom section pretty much just stays the same. And then with the R, we're doing the same thing we did before. We're going to curve this line and bring this line just perpendicular up and down because this line is. Okay, let's erase some of these construction lines so that this word pops out a little bit more. So there is Mr. Otter. I think also with drawing this way, you do need to add some shading, especially underneath and maybe on the side. Kind of figure out where you want your light source to be. I'm going to put my light source just up in this corner right here so that anything on the right side is going to be kind of shaded a little bit. Like especially inside of these areas. Shading, I think, helps a lot with perspective just to figure out what's going on and to kind of separate your shapes a little bit more. Like the inside of the O, that's pretty easy. But what if, we could see like the bottom? I don't know. You can't, but you might in some of your shapes be able to see like something coming through there. This is kind of still in the shadows, so is this. And then I'm just gonna add some shading just along the edge of this one. Okay, that took a lot of time. So you can add shading just to give it a little bit more depth. It'll add even more than just your lines do. So there we have, we need to add just a little bit of shading around this O. Okay. There we have 1-point perspective letters. Thank you so much for drawing with me. Go ahead and draw your own words. Now what I think you should try to do is try to do the same thing, putting it over your perspective line, which is basically just gonna look like this, right? To the side of your perspective line. And when I say what is perspective line, that doesn't even make sense. What I'm really talking about is your vanishing point. So put the next word that you draw in a different place compared with where your vanishing point is. So anyway, that's it. So enjoy this. Maybe tomorrow I'm gonna show you how to use 1-point perspective to draw a landscape. And then on Friday, I'm gonna show you how to do like a pop-up word, which is really fun. So anyway, thanks for drawing with me today on Mr. Otter Studio. Have a wonderful day, staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you tomorrow.